There are moments when everything feels stuck. Relationships fail, connections dissolve, and the constant sense of waiting for the right one becomes a heavy burden. But what if what we call waiting is actually a deep and silent test, an inner rite of passage that precedes the real encounter? Instead of blaming destiny, look within. Perhaps the universe is not late. Perhaps it is simply waiting for you to complete something essential. One last trial, an awakening. Depth psychology reveals that true encounters are not accidents, but reflections of a soul that has integrated its shadows, faced its ghosts, and reunited with its wholeness. Are you ready to discover what this final test is and why it precedes true love? Then comment below. I am ready to recognize who I am before meeting who is meant for me. Carl Jung's analytical psychology offers a powerful key to understanding why true love doesn't arrive, while certain inner wounds remain unhealed. According to Jung, what is not consciously faced within us will be projected onto others, and this projection distorts our relationships, especially the most intimate ones. The final test the universe places before each of us, before sending the right person, is in fact a process of individuation, the journey of becoming who we truly are, integrating inner opposites, accepting the shadow, and balancing the feminine, anima, and masculine, animus, principles that dwell within every being. Before the meeting with another, there must be a reunion with oneself. The shadow, everything we deny or reject in our psyche, must be acknowledged, not as something to be eliminated, but as a vital part of wholeness. As long as we remain blind to our lacks, fears, and illusions, we continue to attract relationships that merely mirror those voids. The right person does not come to complete us, but to share a wholeness already built within. That is why the universe waits, not as punishment, but as protection. It delays this encounter so that we may first survive the most important trial, to love ourselves in our entirety without the need for saviors or fantasies. This Jungian understanding transforms love into a mirror of the soul, and only when the mirror is clear, when projections fade, can the true reflection of the other be seen with clarity. Only then does the universe send the one who is aligned with our authentic self. The shadow, according to Carl Jung, is made up of everything we reject, deny, or fail to recognize in ourselves. It consists of repressed aspects of the personality, impulses, desires, emotions, and traits that, not fitting with the ideal image we have of ourselves, are pushed into the unconscious. Yet the shadow does not disappear. It remains alive and active, silently influencing our attitudes, choices, and especially our relationships. When searching for someone to love, many believe they are guided by affinity, chemistry, or destiny. But what often happens is a meeting of shadows. What I lack, or what I refuse to accept in myself, I unconsciously perceive in the other, creating a magnetic, intense, and often destructive attraction. Many times we fall in love with someone who, unknowingly, expresses the part of us we denied. This explains why so many relationships become emotional battlefields, filled with projection, demands, and frustration. The shadow is not negative in itself. On the contrary, it holds forgotten treasures, stifled talents, repressed strength, ignored creativity. But until we integrate it consciously, it manifests in distorted ways, especially in intimate bonds. The right person can only truly see us when we have already recognized what lies behind the mask we present to the world. Ignoring the shadow is to remain trapped in repetitive cycles, in patterns of choice that always lead to the same kind of dysfunctional relationship. It is meeting the same type of person with a different face, reliving old wounds as if they were new. Healing begins when we have the courage to look within and admit, there are parts of me I still don't accept, and that is why I seek outside what I must find inside. Relating with awareness requires a process of inner honesty. The central question is not, why do I attract the wrong people, but why do I still need these experiences to grow? The shadow creates relationships that work like magnified mirrors, reflecting our deepest wounds. When someone rejects us, ignores us, or manipulates us, they are often just giving shape to a feeling that already exists within. Jung affirmed that the meeting with another is the meeting with one's own soul. This means that relationships are not merely social interactions, but symbolic experiences, where the unconscious tries to express and evolve. The shadow shows itself in jealousy, emotional dependence, the need for control, or the fear of intimacy. Each of these manifestations points to something within that must be recognized and transformed. In this sense, the presence of the shadow becomes the true test before real love. The universe does not prevent the meeting with the right person. It simply requires that we be whole enough to recognize them when they appear. If we are overtaken by the shadow, we see in the other only what we want to see, not who they really are. This creates idealizations, disappointments, and frustrations that could be avoided if self-knowledge were a priority. Integrating the shadow does not mean getting rid of dark parts, but bringing light to them. When we embrace our insecurities, fears, and hidden desires, we stop projecting them onto others. And it is at this moment that the field opens for a love that is more mature, real, and profound. A love that does not seek to fill emotional voids, but to share a journey of awareness and growth. The first step is simple though challenging, recognizing that the shadow exists. From there, one begins the path of inner dialogue, self-observation, and emotional courage. For as Jung said, what you need most is found where you least want to look. Unconscious projections are one of the most central phenomena in Jung's analytical psychology, especially in the context of relationships. To project is to attribute to another characteristics, emotions, or intentions that in fact belong to us, but which for some reason we do not recognize or accept as part of who we are. In relationships, this dynamic creates an illusory reality, where we do not relate to the other as they truly are, but to an image fabricated by our unresolved emotional needs. Jung stated that every human encounter, especially those with strong emotional charge, carries a significant portion of projection. The phase of passion, for instance, is often fed by idealizations. We see in the other what we want to see, what we believe we need. He or she becomes the bearer of our unconscious dreams, our savior, the complement of what we believe we lack. But over time, that projected image begins to fade, and at that point, many relationships enter crisis. What we call disillusion is, in reality, the beginning of truth emerging. The most dangerous projections are those that come from our shadow, because they are unconscious and highly charged with emotion. If we do not feel worthy of love, for example, we may project onto the other the expectation that they constantly prove the opposite. This creates relationships based on demands, insecurity, and dependence. Instead of building something together, we demand that the other fill our inner voids, an impossible task for any human being. There are also projections that turn the partner into an enemy. When we fail to recognize our own aggressiveness, pride, vanity, or fear, it is common to attribute them to the other. Suddenly, we see manipulation, coldness, rejection, or disinterest, even if these feelings are more present in us than in them. This inversion of perception undermines emotional clarity and creates conflicts that could be avoided with greater self-awareness. This silent sabotage prevents the right person from truly drawing near. Because even if someone aligned with our essence appears, he or she will inevitably be caught in the net of our unresolved projections. We may unfairly distrust, suffocate with insecurities, test boundaries, or push away someone who, deep down, came to show us a new path. The unconscious, when not integrated, imposes itself as a filter between us and the world, distancing us from what could be genuine. Another essential point is that projection is not limited to negative relationships. It also appears in excessive enchantments. To idealize someone is to project onto them qualities we would like to develop in ourselves. When we say that someone inspires us or completes us, we are often unconsciously recognizing an aspect of our own that has not yet been fully lived. This process is natural at the start of relationships, but it becomes a problem when we persist in idealization and refuse to see the other as they truly are, with flaws, limits, and humanity. Jung warned that the process of individuation requires the withdrawal of projections. This means bringing back to ourselves what we cast upon the other, and honestly examining what it reveals about our inner world. When we manage to do this, we stop holding others responsible for our pain and take responsibility for our own emotional journey. This is an essential step before the true encounter can take place. The right person in the Jungian context is not the one who perfectly matches our fantasies, but the one with whom we can build a conscious relationship, a relationship where projections are acknowledged, discussed, and transformed into mutual learning. This kind of meeting only becomes possible once we have done consistent inner work, so our wounds no longer drive us blindly. Therefore, the final test proposed by the universe may be precisely this: to perceive and withdraw projections before they blur the clarity of bonds. It is learning to see the other with the eyes of the soul, free from the filters of need, fantasy, and fear. Only then will we be able to recognize the right person, not because they fill a void, but because they share with us the courage to walk side by side, eyes open toward the unknown that is real love. Individuation, a central concept in Carl Jung's psychology, is the process through which an individual becomes conscious of their psychic totality, integrating all aspects of the personality, conscious and unconscious, toward a more authentic self. It is a deep and often painful journey, but absolutely necessary for someone to be truly prepared to live a love that is not just a repetition of unconscious patterns, but an expression of their very essence. Contrary to popular belief, true love does not begin when we meet someone else, but when we meet ourselves. It is only when we stop seeking outside what is missing inside that we create space for genuine connection. Individuation is this path of inner reconciliation, where we learn to embrace our contradictions, accept our shadows, develop neglected potentials, and recognize the value of our existence without needing constant validation. In this process, many illusions dissolve. We let go of the myth of the missing half, the idea that we need someone else to complete us, and begin to understand that the other does not come to save us, but to walk alongside us. Love ceases to be an escape and becomes a place of meeting, and this encounter can only happen with emotional maturity, built along the journey of individuation. Preparation for this love begins when we look at past relationships not as failures, but as teachers. Every bond that broke, every pain felt, every exposed need, all of these are clues pointing to what still needs healing within. Individuation invites us to revisit these moments with compassion, seeing not only what the other did or failed to do, but mainly what it revealed about our expectations, wounds, and unacknowledged needs. This process demands courage. It means facing emptiness, enduring solitude, breaking the compulsion to fill time and heart with any company. Solitude in this sense is not punishment, but a necessary phase of psychic incubation, where the true self begins to emerge. And paradoxically, it is in this space of conscious solitude that we are closest to attracting someone truly compatible, because we are no longer searching out of desperation, but out of deep affinity. To individuate also means integrating inner opposites, reason and emotion, strength and vulnerability, action and receptivity. It is realizing that we are complex, multiple, and that this internal diversity does not need to be denied or controlled, but listened to and understood. The more conscious we are of our different aspects, the less we project onto others, and the more capable we become of dealing with the conflicts that inevitably arise in relationships. True love is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of enough awareness to face them with maturity. Furthermore, individuation strengthens discernment. When we are alienated from ourselves, any appearance of affection can deceive us. But a person who has already traveled part of the path of inner integration can perceive subtle signs, recognizing when there is emotional manipulation, when a bond is based on the repetition of old traumas, or when one is only trying to save someone in order not to face one's own pain. This clarity prevents many detours and unnecessary sufferings. It is also at this stage that love ceases to be need and becomes choice. We no longer choose out of fear of loneliness, but because we see in the other a reflection of our own journey. It is a meeting between whole beings, where there is space to grow together, to respect differences and to sustain mutual freedom without threats. True love is a sacred space of transformation, and only those already committed to their own transformation can sustain it. Therefore, the universe denies love to no one. It simply waits for the moment when the individual is sufficiently awake to receive it. Individuation is not a final destination, but a continuous path of self-knowledge and integration. And the further we advance on this path, the more tuned we are to the frequency of real love, a love that requires no masks, that feeds no illusions, and that recognizes in the other not a patch, but a companion of the soul. At the heart of Carl Jung's analytical psychology is the understanding that every human being, regardless of biological sex, carries within both feminine and masculine aspects. These principles are symbolized by the figures of the anima, the archetypal image of the feminine in the male unconscious, and the animus, the archetypal image of the masculine in the female unconscious. For a true loving connection to occur, it is essential that these two poles be at least partly integrated into the psyche of the individual. Without this integration, what prevails is the unconscious search for someone who represents what we have not yet recognized or developed within ourselves. And this is where relationships based on idealization, dependence, and frustration are born. The anima represents qualities such as receptivity, sensitivity, intuition, empathy, openness, and connection with the emotional world. The animus embodies traits such as firmness, reason, objectivity, assertiveness, structure, and direction. These are not gender stereotypes, but archetypal energies that manifest in many forms within us all. When someone represses or neglects one of these sides, they inevitably project it onto their romantic partners. Thus, women who have not developed their animus tend to seek male figures who represent strength, security, and rationality, expecting the other to compensate for something missing within. Men who have not connected with their anima look for women who express softness, sensitivity, and care, expecting in them what they have not integrated in themselves. This dynamic creates relationships that seem complementary, but are sustained by unconscious dependence. The partner becomes the missing half, and not a whole being with whom to share the journey. Over time, these idealizations tend to collapse, as no partner can forever bear the role of carrying another's animus or anima. That is when conflicts, demands, and often the sense that the relationship has lost its magic or meaning arise. The integration of feminine and masculine, therefore, is an essential stage in preparing for conscious love. When we develop these two forces within, we become more complete. A man who embraces his anima does not fear feeling, being vulnerable, listening, or connecting intuitively with life. He does not see this as weakness, but as a legitimate expression of his humanity. Likewise, a woman who works on her animus becomes able to assert her boundaries, make decisions, express her opinion, and stand with clarity without losing tenderness. This inner balance brings lightness to relationships. We no longer demand that the other embody what we lack, but instead share what we have already cultivated. Love ceases to be a contract of need and becomes a meeting of maturity. Each is free to be themselves without compensating for the other's incompleteness. There is more respect, more listening, more real presence, and when conflicts arise, as they inevitably will, they are not lived as threats, but as opportunities for deepening and growth. Jung believed that the true alchemy of love happens when these principles are balanced within the human being. It is not about eliminating differences between men and women, but about recognizing that we all have the potential to develop both aspects. This integration even allows us to understand others better, with more empathy and less judgment. We know what it is like to move between reason and emotion, between action and contemplation, between firmness and surrender, and this enriches our exchanges of love. That is why the universe waits. It neither punishes nor delays, but creates perfect circumstances for each one to dive into this process of inner integration. The relationships that arise before this tend to repeat the same patterns. They are bonds marked by the idealization of the feminine or the masculine, by the projections of what we would like to be and are not yet. But when this integration begins to consolidate, our choices in love change. We are no longer drawn to dramas, but begin to value peace. We no longer look for saviors, but recognize companions. And this inner shift reverberates outward, attracting people who are on the same frequency of awareness and truth. The sacred union between feminine and masculine within us is the key that opens the way to meeting someone who does not come to complete us, but to add. Someone who does not carry our unconscious ideals, but who sees us as we are, and inspires us to keep growing now together, as two whole beings who have met at the right time. The journey to true love does not begin with another, but with oneself. The universe, in its silent wisdom, does not give what we cannot yet sustain. It observes, waits, tests, not out of cruelty but out of compassion, because it knows that until we face our shadow, withdraw our projections, and become whole through individuation and the integration of our inner poles, we will not recognize the right person, even if they stand before us. Conscious love does not happen before transformation. It is its fruit, and every step taken toward inner truth is also a step toward the other. The final test is not something external. It is the commitment to one's own soul. If this message resonates with you, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to keep diving into this path of self-knowledge. And don't forget to watch the next video appearing on your screen now. It complements this journey and may be exactly what you need to hear today. True love begins when you find yourself, and the universe knows the exact moment to send the one who is ready to walk with you.